World War III. Have you ever wondered what would happen if World War III broke out? How many countries would be involved? Which nations would take sides? And what would happen if nuclear weapons were unleashed? Today, we are exploring a hypothetical scenario of global war, a chilling glimpse into a world on the edge of destruction. World War III. The year is 2026. The world has been simmering with tensions for years. Territorial disputes, cyber attacks, economic sanctions, and resource shortages. Suddenly, a small border conflict between two nations spirals out of control. Fighter jets are shot down, misinformation spreads, and alliances are triggered. NATO invokes Article 5 after a catastrophic attack hits an allied nation. At this moment, the world teeters on the edge of destruction. Could one small clash really spark a global war? Yes. History shows that once alliances engage, escalation can be almost uncontrollable. The major powers align quickly. On one side are the NATO countries, the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, and other European nations. On the opposing front, Russia mobilizes, supported by Belarus and tacitly by China. In Asia, North Korea takes advantage of the chaos, launching attacks on South Korea and Japan, which respond by joining the Western alliance. Middle Eastern tensions flare as Iran and its regional allies confront Saudi Arabia, Israel, and UAE forces. Even countries in Africa, Latin America, and Oceania find themselves affected through logistics, supply lines, or regional disputes. Who exactly is involved? Essentially, every continent is touched, directly or indirectly. The real danger comes from nuclear weapons. Russia and the United States control over 90% of global nuclear arsenals, with thousands of warheads, ICBMs, submarine-launched missiles, and bombers ready to deploy. China holds around 500-700 warheads, France 290, the UK 215, India 160, Pakistan 170, Israel 90, and North Korea an estimated 40-60. Each has the capacity to obliterate cities in seconds. What would happen if they actually used them? Entire metropolitan areas would vanish, millions of lives lost instantly, and radiation would spread far beyond the initial blast zones. Despite desperate diplomacy, the first nuclear strike occurs. A strategic base is destroyed, and a chain reaction of counter-strikes follows. Major cities in the US, Russia, China, and Europe are hit. Military bases are destroyed, and millions die instantly. Radiation blankets surrounding regions. Even cities not directly hit experience fallout, contaminating water, soil, and air. Which areas would be destroyed, and which might survive? Directly targeted cities like Washington, D.C., New York, Moscow, Beijing, and Tokyo would be uninhabitable. Remote regions in Africa, the Amazon, and isolated Pacific islands might escape direct hits, though they would still face fallout and climate effects. The environmental impact is catastrophic. Forests burn, oceans are polluted, and soot rises into the atmosphere, potentially triggering a nuclear winter. Global temperatures drop, crops fail, and widespread famine begins. Can life survive such devastation? Some regions would retain human life, but the global population faces mass mortality, disease, and collapse of basic infrastructure. The Earth itself would enter a prolonged crisis. Economies crumble as global trade halts. Ports are destroyed, shipping lanes unsafe, and supply chains break down. Financial systems collapse. People struggle to access food, water, and medicine. Governments struggle to maintain order. Millions are displaced, and refugee crises overwhelm the few functional cities. Could humanity recover? Recovery is possible, but would require decades, massive cooperation, and rebuilding from near zero. Alongside conventional and nuclear attacks, cyber warfare wreaks havoc. Power grids fail, communication networks collapse, financial systems are paralyzed, and military systems become unreliable. The world's dependence on technology becomes a vulnerability. Could this war be fought digitally as much as physically? Absolutely. Digital attacks amplify the destruction of the physical world, making every city more vulnerable. With destroyed cities, contaminated land, and collapsing economies, the humanitarian crisis is unparalleled. Hospitals overflow, food is scarce, and disease spreads rapidly. Millions flee irradiated zones, seeking safety. Aid efforts are hampered by ongoing military operations. What happens to civilians? They bear the brunt of the war, facing famine, radiation sickness, and social breakdown. Where governments collapse, local populations form resistance groups and guerrilla forces. Small-scale conflicts persist for years, prolonging suffering and instability. Does this prolong the war? Yes. Even after official ceasefires, fragmented conflicts continue, creating pockets of chaos. Eventually, the world realizes the futility of total annihilation. Neutral nations and international organizations broker ceasefires. Peace talks focus on disarmament, reconstruction, and rebuilding trust. Can peace survive after global nuclear war? It is fragile but possible, requiring unprecedented cooperation and restraint. After ceasefire agreements, nations begin rebuilding infrastructure, cities, and economies. Technology and innovation from wartime applications are redirected to reconstruction. Former enemies collaborate to prevent future conflicts. What must humanity do to recover? Share resources, rebuild governance systems, and protect what remains of the environment. Scholars and survivors reflect on why the war started and how it could have been prevented. Lessons include the dangers of unchecked nationalism, the importance of diplomacy, and the absolute necessity of nuclear disarmament. Will humanity remember these lessons? Hopefully, yes, but only if they are codified and enforced globally. Decades later, the Earth has changed. Climate patterns are altered, population shifted, and political maps redrawn. Some regions flourish with cooperation and innovation, while others struggle to recover. Will the world ever be the same? No. But humans adapt, survive, and rebuild from the ashes. In the end, humanity's resilience shines. From the devastation, new societies emerge, focused on cooperation, empathy, and peace. Could the next generation avoid repeating the mistakes of the past? Yes, if dialogue replaces aggression and empathy replaces fear. The final message: even after the darkest times, the human spirit endures, and hope is never lost.